Good afternoon. We have a brand new sound system. I'm hoping you can hear us. All right. It is good to be with you today. The topic for today is entangled life, fungi, and the way of interdependence. With me here today, I have Brother Zachary Stevens Walter, the chaplain for pastoral care, and Reverend Jude Geiger, our minister for community engagement. And we have Darnell White and Jerry Brown and our fabulous choir. I'd like to remind you that children are always welcome here in the sanctuary, and particularly today because we don't have programming upstairs. If you see a child running, yelling through the aisles, please feel free to join them. We are going to begin with a simple call to worship. We gather today in memory of all those who've gone before us. We gather today in gratitude for all those here with us. We gather today in hope for all we will create for those after us. Come, let us worship in love and community together. Please rise in body or spirit so that we can sing and light our chalice.
Join with me in our chalice lighting. We light this chalice, the flame of our heritage. May it ignite hope in our lives, in the community, and in the world. I invite you to remain standing or risen in spirit and join in singing Let It Be a Dance, number 311 in our gray hymnal. Let it be a dance we do. May I have a dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, play the words, and fill the day with famous hearts. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To bring the harvest back to seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have the dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Everybody learn to bend. And like a willow in the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Joy for the hope must die. A time for joy and time to cry.
Thank you, choir. Thank you, Darnell. Please join with me now in reciting our unison affirmation found in your bulletin. Unto the Church Universal, which is the depository of all ancient wisdom and the school of all modern thought, which recognizes in all prophets a harmony, in all scriptures a unity, and through all dispensations a continuity, which abjures all that separates and divides and always magnifies humanity and peace, which seeks truth in freedom, justice in love, and individual discipline in social duty, and which shall make of all persons one beloved community. Unto this church and unto all its members, known and unknown throughout the world, we pledge the allegiance of our hands and hearts. We greet each other on Sundays as part of our liturgy. We turn to our neighbors as strangers or old friends and welcome each other into our shared space. It's our way of saying that our spiritual path is communal, relational. We are in this together. It's not just friendly. It's how we ground ourselves in this space with each other. In this spirit, let us greet our neighbor.
Greetings. Greetings.
You're enabling their chit-chat.
Good afternoon, everyone. Invite you back to your seats. State of the world. I just forgot to turn my microphone off during singing, so I don't know if you all heard me singing that last song or if Tristan in our audio booth turned off my mic. I hope so. Or the people at home will have been given a very special treat. And to a more serious note, where are we? Where is the world today? I have no answers. I know just that at the state of my social media wall yesterday, I posted in a moment of reflection in that of all the campuses that have protests on their campuses, students are protesting the violence in Gaza and our continued funding of military in Israel. And it instigated a painful argument across. We are so divided. Some folks are simply saying, I don't want to fund violence, and others are hearing something very different that's anti-Semitic. And we have people in those protests who are saying anti-Semitic things at the same time that most of the protesters are not. I hope for clarity. I hope for patience with our folks so that we can come to the truth. But great harm is happening in the world in our name. And there are people that are saying horrible things that remind part of our community who are Jewish of horrible things that have happened and continue to happen. In that spirit, that not knowing, but praying for peace, Let's enter into a time of meditation. Spirit of renewal, God of many names, source of one transforming and abundant love, we gather this hour in community, a sanctuary of friends, of strangers, of family, some seeking an hour of peace, some seeking a time to be challenged, to be uplifted, others hoping for an end to grief, a commiseration for a sense of loss, of loved ones gone. Each of us know pain and joy in our lives. Each carry these in our hearts, turn them over again and again with our minds. May this place be where we make space for the burdens our neighbors carry. Celebrate our successes when they have come, and ease one another's journeys as best we can. May a spirit of newness enter our lives. Teach us respect. Teach us to respect our own grief and pain, give it its due, and learn to let go when it is time to let go. So too, teach us to feel joy when there is cause for celebration. Allow it to touch our hearts and enter our lives, and may we not let it go before its time. Not let us readily and perpetually sacrifice our joys before the idols of work or school or duty or even loss. And we lift up the prayers of the people this hour. May Gaza find peace and safety, and the people have homes, their families returned. May the hostages from Hamas find their way back to their families. May the people of our neighbors, our states, lift up space for complexity at a time of chaos. And closer to home, I invite us all now to lift up the names of those we wish to hold in all our hearts this hour. Virginia. For all these names spoken aloud, and for those written silently on the tablets of our hearts, we pray. Amen, and blessed be.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Have you heard the story of Flacco the owl? Yes, I've heard some yeses. Well, if you haven't, Flacco was a male Eurasian owl who escaped a long-time enclosure at Central Park Zoo. This was about February of 2013. Well, Flacco died, but officially, excuse me? This is not the right date? You fixed it, okay. Of 2023, that's what I have written. I must have said something else. 13, excuse me. All right, yes, February of 2023. I know you'll hold me accountable if I miss any other details. Officially now, they still don't know who cut the enclosure in Central Park Zoo. You probably know some of Flacco's story, but what you don't know is the story of Steve the rat. Steve the rat was ultimately the cause of Flacco's demise. This is not more widely known. Now, it is true many of Flacco's fans watched when our beloved owl struck a building and eventually perished from his injuries. But our love for Flacco meant that his autopsy was unusually publicized. And together with the Conservation Society, they released the evidence that Flacco's exposure to rodenticide and a pigeon virus would likely have been debilitating and ultimately fatal without his tragic injuries. Well, what most people don't know is that was all Steve's fault. Steve the rat. Now, Steve the rat was born in the catacombs near Pearl and Water Street downtown, near the southern side of Manhattan on the east side in what's known as the financial district. Steve lived in a nest with about 150 of his brothers and sisters and cousins. Steve knew little outside of the confines of his little nest between about Brooklyn Bridge and the South Street Seaport. There's no way for Steve to have known that what allowed his family success was an ongoing litigation in the building above him, and that kept Con Edison out of the long-since abandoned catacombs underneath. It wasn't possible for Steve to know that after months of sitting empty, mold grew in the space, which supported several colonies of fungus and ants, which themselves supported several colonies of mice. So many of these tenants also fed pigeons. And the pigeons flew frequently into the empty space of the building, leaving pigeon poop, which itself supported a network of mycelium and fungus. fungus that itself was eaten by the ants and cockroaches and crickets that populated the space. This important network of mycelium supplied the insects of all the surrounding buildings with all the calories they needed, which in turn offered Steve and his brothers and sisters and cousins a constant supply of little critter protein. You may recall from February 2023, bird watchers at the time told us that it was this very colony of mice and pigeons that drew Flacco downtown to begin with. They said that he was developing a taste for feral pigeons that wandered aimlessly by the river shoreline. You may not remember that Flacco's autopsy also revealed that he was riddled with this pigeon virus, common in birds of prey. Now, the reason so many rats live downtown is also the reason Steve was particularly resistant to a certain type of rat poison, a poison that's made his way into Steve's nest with all his brothers and sisters on the back of a pregnant cockroach. Now, this pregnant cockroach brought this rat poison into Steve's nest with millions of eggs that themselves hatched and spread rat poison all throughout Steve's little enclave. There was no way for Steve to know that all the little bugs his brothers and sisters would eating would be their demise. Steve didn't know that he was resistant to the rat poison. All he knew was that he was a little sick. He felt a little sick and went outside one night, and without his brothers and sisters and cousins to warn him, he wandered out into the middle of the cobblestone streets where Flacco found him. I'm sure you can imagine what happened next. Flacco the owl quickly plucked him from the cobblestones. Steve likely perished before he knew what had happened. Flacco was a magnificent creature. His story captured the imagination of hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers and probably many more across the country, but I doubt many people actually know the secret story of Steve, the rat. Steve has become for me an image or a symbol of the interconnected web of being that is New York City. We are all connected to the pigeons and the rats. So today, let us remember Steve, the rat who, in collaboration with the interconnected web of all being and New York City, brought down Flacco. Let it be. Let us join our voices in singing Once When My Heart Was Passion Free, number 335, found in your gray hymnal.
I am sure you now have a new story that you will go to for Interdependence moving forward. That was the most New York City moment right there. I love it. And since we're on it, mistakes. Last week when I was telling you a story about bats, and I said a building, I meant to say the Bronx Zoo. I said a museum. That changed everything. Anyway, church doesn't happen on Sundays alone. Church is who we are in the world and how we connect all through the week. We don't announce everything that's happening right now. I'm sorry, and you're welcome. And so I recommend our weekly emails or checking the website, or if you're a member or friend here, joining our online directory. It's another way down the line. You'll be knowing about everything. And next week is Music Sunday. And we are celebrating our music director as he makes his way toward retirement. Please join us next week so we can honor him well together. And I would be there, Jerry, but I'm on vacation in Mexico, so I'm sorry. Next Saturday, we're hosting a teach-in on institutional racism and the healthcare system. It'll be held online at 2 p.m. in our main room. And on May 19th, Reverend Peggy and Jonathan Burchell will remain after worship for a Q&A about all things church. Everyone is welcome. And on your way out, pick a fridge calendar. If you're not sure which side to hang, the side that should go on the cover, the front of the fridge, is labeled. So look for that. Our ushers are going to pass a plate for donations. We are very grateful for your presence, for your willingness to be part of building this world we dream about, and we are always grateful for your financial support. Thank you for being with us today.
As some of you know, I live in the woods. My home has 5 acres of trees, and this fall we planted more. This time they're trees that will produce fruit and nuts. We had to take down 2 centuries-old oak trees a few years ago, so this planting of another 24 trees was in part my returning back to the land what we took. It's also part of my plan to live sustainably, to be in relationship with a tiny portion of this planet in such a way that we can mutually feed and care for each other. It'll be years before we're laden with apples and pecans, but part of living with the trees is really learning to be patient, to let life unfold slowly. In a lot of ways, living closer to church would make my life easier. I truly hate commuting. And I think community church should be embedded in a neighborhood, that ministers should live in a community. I'm grateful to Brother Zachary and his family that they are willing to do that, which lets me, at least for now, live among the trees. Those trees and I are in relationship. We've been watching each other age for 22 years. I've become very sensitive to their rhythms. One of the things I watch for is the acorn crop. When the acorn crop is heavy, we have to be very careful about where we park, because acorns, when they drop dozens of feet, have the power to dent metal and break glass. Some years we actually sit on the deck and we just listen to them dropping all around us. We even put up umbrellas sometimes to protect ourselves. But some years there are hardly any acorns at all, leaving us in peace, but distressing the squirrels who depend on them through those long winters. It's always interesting to me that those large or small crops seem to be simultaneous all over my property, even the neighborhood. I've since learned that they're county-wide, even statewide. Some years there are lots of acorns and hazelnuts and pecans, and some years very few. I used to think that a particular tree just got more or less sun or had attracted some more delicious bugs, bringing in more woodpeckers, causing distress. But the idea that all the trees are in the same rhythm goes a little against my own sense of trees as individual beings. Scientists and now some theologians have also observed this pattern. Robin Wall Kimmer is both. She's a botanist with a PhD. She teaches at Syracuse University. She's also of indigenous ancestry, coming from the nation of Potawatomi. Her landmark book, Braiding Sweetgrass, is a reflection on life using both lenses. So I listened to chapters. Have you read this book, Braiding Sweetgrass? Has anyone listened to it? I started listening to it on Audible, and I listen to it sometimes on my way into work during that commute when I drive in on Sundays, because just listening to it can feel like a blessing. One of the things I learned from her, and have since looked into even more, is that deep underground, far beneath us, is a network of life we call mycelium. There's a massive growth, a connection of fungi, almost entirely unseen, but without which life on Earth does not thrive. This network connects the trees, each to the other, making them not entirely individual, but deeply rooted, bonded in ways that promote life and health. The trees are connected underground through a subterranean network of fungal strands that inhabit tree roots and are linked each to the other. The fungi forage for mineral nutrients in the soil and deliver them to the trees in exchange for carbohydrates. They form bridges between individual trees so that the forest, which looks to us like it's crowded by standalone beings, is in fact thick with connection, moving carbohydrates from tree to tree. Kimmer calls it a kind of Robin Hood, taking from the rich and giving to the poor, so all the trees arrive at the same carbon surplus at the same time. It's a web of reciprocity, of giving and taking. Adrienne Marie Brown uses this insight to talk about human resilience, offering insight to how we can organize ourselves. Most organizing work, most of the work of building equitable systems, of creating a just, vibrant, healthy society happens beneath the surface. Like the millions of miles of fungal threads constantly reaching out in systems of reciprocity, the world we dream about is being sustained deep beneath the soil. There are some of us who pop up from time to time with things to say, mushrooms of protests and rallies, but much of the work to get us there and to heal us afterwards happens underground. And these underground systems bind and connect us. The soil is stronger because of the mycelium, and our communities are stronger because of our relationships, because of the relationships we intentionally build with each other, mile deep and mile wide, creating an alternative to many human communities that are no more than inch deep or inch wide. Resilient communities, mycelium, human and otherwise, work by absorbing impact all along the network, not stressing any one part, by diffusing toxins, reducing potential harm, and sending out warnings when possible mischief is headed our way. And mycelium transform death into life. They recycle, upcycle, convert the elements of a body no longer used to the next body, breaking down bones into minerals and dispersing the food to promote life through the forest and beyond. This is a model for living, for building this world we dream about, deeply connected, intertwined, mutually dependent, wide and deep and earthbound in a network of necessary partnerships, collaboratives, and interrelationships. You have heard me say we are in an epidemic of loneliness. There are many reasons for this. Families have moved further from each other. People have moved from their birthplaces. Communal events have moved online, keeping us at a distance. No longer being together, we watch each other. It's also true that our economic system has allowed, even inspired, a centralization and necessity of money made worse by the enormous expense of everyday living, forcing people to work longer hours, hold more than one job, and cut back on social gatherings they can no longer afford. And while the integration of Zoom into our social fabric has many advantages, one of those advantages is also working against us when we can say yes to so many things and often want to try to make more connections and then find ourselves stretched too thin and living in a constant state of overwhelm with so many relationships no more than screen deep. And sometimes there's shame in being lonely, in having no one who wants to prioritize you on a holiday or thinks to invite you to a weeknight dinner or gallery opening. That shame can lead to silence, exacerbating the experience of being lonely. And it's everywhere. It's a national epidemic. An old friend noted the other day that she had no one to invite to her Seder this year because her daughter is so adamantly pro-Palestine and her in-laws are equally passionate about supporting Israel. So even those who might have access to family are finding the temperature of the moment too hot for comfort, keeping us ever more divided. Like the trees, though, we don't survive on our own. We certainly don't thrive. Years of COVID fear and lockdown taught us that in a hurry. We have yet to recover from our sudden radical disconnection from each other. And I think the healing wisdom comes to us from the trees. So don't laugh at me, but I read some advice columns. I read them from the New York Times, I read them from Washington Post. I'm very curious about what everyone thinks everyone else should be doing with their lives. But in one of them, a writer said that they were lonely and asked for ideas, to which the response was something like, join restaurant groups and go on museum tours, which is completely and totally unhelpful. I mean, it's hard to believe the person hadn't already thought of those things, but more important, showing up isn't really a solution to the profound disconnection people are experiencing. Those are, to repeat the phrase, inch deep. So I think of the mycelium, deep below the surface, living in the roots of the trees, stretching across the vastness of earth, intertwining threaded arms with other threaded arms in every direction, moving energy back and forth, feeding and being fed in a network of slow-moving, life-giving exchange. That's so different from watching a protest from Facebook Live or commenting on a comment on Substack or following a YouTuber or participating in a Zoom retreat. Mycelium get dirty. They stay put. They are in constant communication. They are in necessary relationship. I wonder if we can do that too. For myself, I have decided to try. Now, I'm going to admit to you that I am exhausted. Anyone in my vicinity these past few weeks knows I am exhausted. I'm a little short-tempered, I'm a little less patient, a little less able to focus on things, if only because there are just too many of them. And that's a problem. There are too many things. I need some time off, I suspect, maybe a weekend of quiet, but that's a quick fix. The problem is deeper, and I know that I am not alone in it. There are too many things. Sometimes these things are life-giving and I want more of them, but often they're depleting, usually because they're online, which feels flat and energyless. And I leave with less life, less strength, detached and alone. I'm not someone who feels lonely from too few people, actually, but I can feel it from too many people. Too many shallow relationships, too few deep ones, too much living on the surface, mile wide, inch deep. So in my own case, I'm going to start letting go of things. And you want to know where this is most difficult? Where the things are ego feeding, but not life-giving. You know the difference? Do you have that in your life? Right? Chairing national boards, sitting on committees at the invitation of someone important. I have a very long list of things that feed ego but not soul, and I'm letting them go. Because the world is not better when we're exhausted. Exhausted trees produce no fruit or nuts. I find life in a few places, and I'm going to sink into those. With the time I save letting go of ego work, I'm going to be more present to that which is soul feeding. Right? I'm in a book club with friends, both old and new. I'm going to read all those books. You know how often I show up for book club going, I'm sorry I didn't read the book again this week. I'm going to read the books. I'm going to arrive early and leave late. I'm not going to run in at the last possible minute and then say I really need to go. I'm going to enjoy kitchen conversations and side talk. I'm going to invite more people to my home for dinner, something I used to do frequently but stopped because I'm too busy. I'm going to say yes to invitations and set dates sooner rather than later. What I so often do you do this? I say yes, and then I push it off. It's like 6 months from now because I've got all these busy things I've got to do. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to say, yes, are you free right now? I'm going to learn from the mycelium to move in many directions, making direct contact, feeling those I can touch. And I wonder about you too. How can you live a more entangled life? How can you go deep and get dirty? Can you move beneath the surface and reach out to find others also subterranean who are looking to make connections, to attach to roots and branches, to move out with threaded arms in many directions? Can you find food and offer food and live in a system of reciprocity? I'm worried, I know many of you are too, about what's next for this country and even in this city. There is no question for me that our healing, our hope lies in relationships. Our ability to connect meaningfully, to gift each other by seeing each other, and accept the gift of others seeing us. Weaving ourselves to each other, committing ourselves to our common purpose, linking our arms, creating a network of mutuality, and holding on tightly when trouble comes our way, absorbing it by spreading out the impact, protecting each other with our commitment to interdependence. Hope is in the acceptance of our profound, beautiful, life-giving, so deep as to be subterranean, essential, independent, multi-dimensional, entangled life. And Darnell is going to sing with a microphone, I hope he has.
Know that you're moving through a storm, drifting on the sea, wondering where you belong. See you going round in summer wind, you're wishing that the world would stop and let your life begin. If you find yourself too far away and you feel like hope is gone, tie yourself to me and I will lead you home. Tie yourself to me if you think you're gonna drown. Tie yourself to me when the waves are crashing down, when the sea has pulled you out so far, you think you can't return. Take this string here in my heart and tie yourself to me. I will bring you safely to the shore. I'll fight through every wave till you're not drifting anymore. You could be my friend, I could be yours. arms wide open to catch you if you fall. If you find yourself too far away, feel like hope is gone, tie yourself to me, and I will lead you home. Tie yourself to me if you think you're gonna drown. Tie yourself to me when the waves are crashing down. If the sea has pulled you out so far, you think you can't return. Take this string here in my heart and tie yourself to me. If you think you're going under and you feel like hope is gone, I will be your lifeline. I will guide you through the storm. Tie yourself to me if you think you're gonna drown. Tie yourself to me when the waves are crashing down. If the sea has pulled you out so far, you think you can't return. Take this string here in my heart. Take this string here in my heart. Take this string here in my heart and tie yourself to me.
There was a Darnell White original.
What page is the one?
We're going to extinguish our chalice. Please join me. The words are in your program. Knowing how quickly the flame of truth may be extinguished, how easily the chalice of fellowship broken, let us be vigilant in faith, keep peace in our hearts, and make care for one another the watchword of our lives together. So our light goes out everywhere into the world. Our light goes out everywhere. Healing and hope are needed. Let us go in peace to love and serve the world and one another. It's good to be with you.